the laughter didn't stop. It rippled across the decorated wedding hall like an ugly echo bouncing off the chandeliers and white drapes, mixing with the soft music in a way that made it even more painful. In the middle of it all sat Marissa, her lavender dress trembling with every shaky breath she took. She wasn't crying loudly, no, she was the kind of person who tried to hide her pain, swallowing it like she had swallowed years of judgment, whispers, and looks. But today, on what was supposed to be a beautiful celebration for her cousin, her heart felt like breaking in front of 100 eyes. Her hands gripped the edge of the table, knuckles pale, as a small group of guests pointed at her and snickered, unaware, or perhaps uncaring, of how deeply each laugh cut her. And as she faced the tablecloth with watery eyes, wishing she could disappear, a man in the distance noticed everything, and began walking toward her with purpose. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for others, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Your support helps these stories reach more hearts. Marissa had always been the bigger girl in every room. People rarely saw her for her softness, her gentleness, or the way she noticed beauty in small things. They saw size. They saw a shape they believed didn't belong in elegant dresses or formal photographs. Ever since high school, she had learned to expect certain glances. But she thought she had grown stronger, until today reminded her that she wasn't as immune as she hoped. The bridesmaids at the next table, dressed in matching lilac gowns, hadn't been subtle either. They whispered behind their manicured hands, laughed into their champagne glasses, and whenever Marissa looked up, she caught them staring at her body as though she were something to ridicule. One of the groomsmen had even leaned close earlier, pretending to offer help, only to call her chair reinforced seating as he walked away laughing. And Marissa, already nervous and already alone, simply folded into herself, shrinking emotionally even though shrinking physically was the one thing her genetics and metabolism had always fought her on. She wanted to celebrate her cousin's joy, wanted to feel included, but the glow of the wedding lights only exposed her loneliness more clearly. Her family was scattered around the hall, busy greeting guests or dancing. No one noticed the cruelty happening right beside her. But someone else did. His name was Cole Renwick, a single father who had come to the wedding as a distant friend of the groom. He wasn't dressed like the other men in crisp suits. His plaid shirt, rolled-up sleeves, and rugged presence made him stand out, yet somehow he fit perfectly into the room, like a grounded soul among polished surfaces. Cole had lived enough life to recognize pain when he saw it. He had raised his son alone ever since he lost his wife to illness 5 years earlier. That loss had taught him how fragile people could be, how easily a smile could hide a collapsing world, and how silently a person could drown in their own hurt. And as he stood in the back of the hall, watching Marissa fight tears while others laughed at her, something inside him refused to stay still. The scene around Marissa only grew worse. A few guests leaned over her table as if inspecting her. One woman laughed with her whole body, pointing and shaking her head, while a sharp-eyed man bent down pretending to whisper encouragement but instead mocking her weight under his breath. Marissa flinched at each jab, her tears falling faster now. She pressed a trembling hand to her cheek, wiping nothing away because the tears kept coming. Her breath hitched, chest rising and falling as the humiliation consumed her. And that was when the atmosphere shifted. Cole moved through the rows of chairs and tables with slow but steady determination. His face wasn't angry, it was something deeper, something filled with protective purpose. As he walked, people noticed him, their laughter dimming ever so slightly, their eyes drawn to the intensity of his steps. He wasn't rushing. He wasn't dramatic. He was simply coming forward, as if every instinct in him demanded that he stand beside the girl who had been left alone in her pain. Marissa didn't see him yet. Her gaze remained on her trembling hands, on the small flower arrangement she clung to as though it could anchor her. A part of her hoped someone, anyone, would stop the mocking, but she no longer believed it was possible. Cole reached the group just as another cruel joke was thrown her way. The bridesmaid closest to Marissa leaned in and said something about big girls needing big tables. Her friends burst into laughter, the sound sharp and shameless. Marissa crumpled inward, unable to hide her brokenness anymore. Her shoulders shook as she tried to breathe through the humiliation. Then the laughter stopped, not because people felt guilty, but because Cole's presence changed the entire energy of the room. He placed a gentle hand on the back of Marissa's chair, not touching her but grounding the space beside her. His eyes burned into the group surrounding her. They shifted uncomfortably under his gaze, suddenly aware that their behavior had been witnessed. Marissa finally lifted her red, tear-filled eyes and looked up at him. For a moment, she didn't understand why a stranger stood so protectively near her. But then she saw the compassion, the steadiness in his expression, and her breath caught. She wasn't alone anymore. Cole didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need to confront anyone with anger. His very presence, strong, steady, unyielding, was enough to make the group step back. Shame flickered across a few faces. The bridesmaids avoided eye contact. The groomsman who had mocked her earlier tugged at his tie and shifted his stance awkwardly. Cole simply remained beside Marissa, silently telling her with his posture, "You matter. You deserve respect. I'm here." The wedding hall felt different now. People watched, sensing something meaningful happening. Marissa wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand, embarrassed but also strangely comforted. Why would someone she didn't even know choose to help her? Why would a stranger care? Cole slowly moved to the empty chair next to hers and sat down, calm, respectful, not forcing conversation, simply offering his presence. And that, more than words, told Marissa she wasn't invisible. She wasn't unworthy. She wasn't what those cruel voices wanted her to believe. By the time dinner was served, Cole had gently encouraged her to take a walk outside to breathe. They talked softly in the cool air, about life, about pain, about healing. And for the first time in years, Marissa felt seen, not for her size, but for her heart. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us continue bringing emotional stories to life. Before we end, tell us in the comments, have you ever stood up for someone, or has someone stood up for you? Your stories inspire others too. As Marissa walked back inside beside Cole, the whispers were gone. The laughter had vanished. And though the night hadn't begun as she hoped, it ended with something she never expected: courage, comfort, and the reminder that kindness, even from a stranger, can change everything.